Jai Gurudev. Let us start with the Guru Vandanam. Akhandamandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam tatpadam darsitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Ajnanatimirandhasya gnananjanasalakaya chakshurmilitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Jai Gurudev. We continue on the subject of enlightenment. Now there is always a question that is asked whether enlightenment is immediate or it is gradual and progressive. Yes, it has been described in the scriptures that enlightenment can be immediate. Maybe, if a person has such pure mind, intellect and nervous system, then the enlightenment can be immediate. And there have been examples of that. But in general, the enlightenment that I have experienced and most enlightened human beings have experienced is gradual. Pursuing enlightenment is a very beautiful journey. It's a very happy journey. Many people try to distort this truth and say, it is very difficult, it is impossible. But it is not so. If we can bring our younger generation, our children and grandchildren to meditate and then be connected to this knowledge at a younger age, then it is just a spontaneous journey in life, a natural, happy, spontaneous journey in life. The scriptures always speak about the unlimited scope of life, the life which can be lived in full potential and in lot of happiness and peace. But when it comes to reality, most of the preachers and most of the people misinterpret it and they do not present this full scope of life. When one is not well informed and when one is suffering and miserable, then they tend to see the world also as suffering, the whole of the world as suffering and miserable, and even the gods are perceived as suffering and miserable. And you see those kind of images displayed too, where the gods are suffering. So this is simply our ignorance and lack of knowledge. And this is how one's mind is when it is in ignorance. And then we superimpose that on all the great beings, on all the gods and saints, etc., and project them that they are inadequate and suffering and miserable. So when the knowledge dawns, then all this disappears. Then what you see is the eternal, the scope of this fulfillment, the scope of what can happen in life, the scope of this unending happiness, the scope of this immortality is all only understood when the ignorance is gone. So for a person to be successful in the world, for a person to gain the most in the world, then one should seek enlightenment. One should be on this seeking of the enlightenment and gaining the enlightenment, because all of the material life is glorified and brightened by the light of the inner self. When the self-realization and God-realization is the goal of man, then on the way to achieving this goal, the world is better, the efficiency improves, and the man becomes more capable of being in the world and enjoying the world on all levels. No enlightened being is miserable. They are the most blissful people and they enjoy all aspects of creation, the whole of the nature, all that is presented in the Veda. Everything is enjoyed to the maximum extent by the enlightened. Now, this individual enjoys the world to the maximum because the nature of the mind is now bliss. The nature of the mind is now bliss consciousness, and this bliss consciousness is the basis of all experience and activity. So, whatever is in your mind is projected outside, it becomes the image outside. Then you see everything in that light, in that glow of bliss. And this is the state of the God realized man. And this is the state of the God realized man. And this brings the height of success in the world in a most natural way. And the individual life is then fulfilled. So the story of enlightenment is really the traveler who has been seeking enlightenment finally comes back home, comes back to Atma, and he is self-realized. And having found the home, then the self-realized is in peace. Since the state of the Atma is bliss, Ananda, this is how the Atma is referred to as Ananda, and it is the state and the form of the Atma, the Ananda. That is why all the sannyasis are given the name Ananda, Brahmananda, Purnananda, Satyananda, Sivananda, in order to just remind them that they are nothing but the Ananda, and this is what is the ultimate. So when one has the experience of the ocean of this Ananda, or this bliss, then this eliminates the possibility of any sorrow, great or small, because when there is a bright light of the sun, no darkness can penetrate. When the sun is fully effulgent, then no darkness, no matter how much darkness you want to infuse, it will not penetrate. In the same way, when there is bliss consciousness in the full, the sorrow cannot penetrate, and even if it just bombards, it cannot stay there. And having achieved the self, then one can see that no other gain is greater than itself. No other gain in the world is greater than this self. So this is the truth that one finally arrives through, and there is the greatest fulfillment, greatest contentment, and greatest peace. And whatever is there, this fulfillment and contentment then becomes eternal. So when we say love of God, when we say light of God, when we say compassion of God, and that is what that is the self of everyone. That is the Atma of everyone. The Atma of everyone is the light of God. The Atma of everyone is the love of God. So when there are certain religions which says life is suffering, and their God is suffering or whatever, then it has to be clearly understood that this is not what Veda says, and this is not what an enlightened will say, because on the experiential level, Atma is bliss. There is no sorrow there. So life cannot be suffering. Life has to be blissful. Life is suffering only until the point that you do not know this true knowledge, and that you do not have the experience of this self-knowledge and self-realization and God-realization. So what I would say is, try to understand enlightenment is the goal of this life. It is the purpose of the life, and it is the fulfillment of this life. So you should seek enlightenment and strive for it for the sake of you, for your own sake, and for all of those who are dear to you. If you are looking for peace, if you are looking for affluence, if you are looking for fulfillment, then they cannot be found outside. They have to be, you can only find them inside. So with this, I wish all of you to be enlightened, and we will continue. Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti 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 Shanti.